I'm reading from the New Living Translation. Notice there these words. Elisha now returned to Gilgal, and there was a famine in the land. And one day, as the group of prophets was seated before him, he said to his servant, "Put a large pot on the fire and make some stew for the rest of the group." And one of the young men went out into the field to gather herbs and came back with a pocket full of wild gourds. And he shredded them and put them into the pot without realizing they were poisonous. Some of the stew was served to the men, but after they had eaten a bite or two, they cried out, "Man of God, there's poison in this stew." So they would not eat it. And Elisha said, "Bring me some flour." And then he threw it into the pot and said, "Now it's all right. Go ahead and eat." And then it did not harm them. I'm talking today simply from the subject, make a miracle out of a mess. Make a miracle out of a mess. Make a miracle out of a mess. What do you do when life becomes messy, as it often does? I mean, nobody starts out when they get married saying, "You know what, I'm going into this marriage because, I'm planning for a divorce." Nobody, when they opens a business and say, "You know what, I'm just trying to make as much money as I can before I file for bankruptcy." You go into it with the hope, with the expectation that this is going to work. Nobody expects things to mess up. Nobody goes to school with the idea of flunking out. Nobody wants to go in with the anticipation that I'm going to make a mess of this. But sometimes life winds up messy because you end up out in the field taking some wild stuff that you don't even know and understand and end up throwing it into the pot. And you take something and innocently poison it by something that you put in it. And then you make life a mess. And what do you do now when life ain't worth stew? That's what they had done. He had innocently poisoned the stew. And it must have been a very foul kind of poison. Some poisons you can't even taste. You can't even taste it, but yet it'll kill you. It's a silent killer. It's an odorless killer. It's a tasteless sometimes killer. Sometimes it is colorless. You can't even see it, but you see its effect. But this obviously had a foul taste to it, because as soon as they had one or two bitefuls, they said, this is death. This tasted nasty. Obviously it was something that was putrid that obviously came out of it, because they only had one or two mouthfuls, and then they said, "There's death in the pot." But then the man of God gave them instructions as to what to do to take this stuff that was a mess, where death was in it, and turn it around to where it was a blessing and they could eat it, and it nourished their bodies. And we all want to be able to get the nourishment, and we need to know, how do we make a miracle out of a mess? I want to walk you through a process. Now, a miracle is an interruption in the normal processes of life. And let me say this to you, that if you're in a crisis, the best thing to believe God for is a miracle. And sometimes we get into pickles where, you can't even just climb out of it. You get in a pit, and it has to be a miracle for God to get you out of this mess. I don't know whether anybody has ever been in something that your education couldn't get you out of, and your contacts and your hookups and your relationships couldn't get you out of. But sometimes you get in a pickle, and it's like, "God, if I'm going to get out of this, I need a miracle. I need a miracle." How do you make a miracle out of a mess? When you messed up in relationship, when you messed up money, when you messed up your credit score. God, I'm going to need a miracle. I need a miracle. Anybody ever been in a position where anybody need a miracle today? Some folks need to God to do something. You got into some situations and you need a miracle. I just want to walk you through a process. Here's number one: have knowledge. Have knowledge. Have knowledge. Have knowledge. Because we all know the scripture, Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. He says, not because they didn't get knowledge. He says, but because you've rejected knowledge. He said, I reject you from being priest to me, and since you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children. Now, I want to read that same passage, at least the first part of that passage of Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, because we all know the verse from the King James Version or the New King James Version that simply says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Now I want you to hear how Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 in the New Living Translation puts it, because it brings a different perspective to it. It says, my people are being destroyed because they don't know me. It's a different understanding, isn't it? It's one thing, my people are destroyed for just a lack of knowledge. Listen, we live in an information age right now. We are on information overkill. It's not that we have a lack of knowledge, but we do have a lack of knowledge of Him. He says, my people are destroyed because they don't know me. They don't know me. This is personal. It's not, he didn't say that they don't know about me. He says they don't know me. You learn God by walking with God, by allowing Him to tabernacle with you, making His place of abode, giving Him a place to live in your heart. That's how you get to know Him. You know Him by the character that He has through His Word. He says, my people are being destroyed because they don't know me. How many marriages are destroyed because they're married to somebody who doesn't know God? I didn't say that they didn't know about Him. I mean, they may be coming to church every week. Coming to church does not mean that you know God. Just because your mom and daddy knew God doesn't mean that you know God. You got to know God for yourself. You have to know God for yourself. He says, my people are destroyed because they don't know me. Political leaders are destroyed. Nations are messed up because they don't know me. He said, I want you to get to know me. You know, in the Spanish language, they have two different words for knowledge or to know. One is the word saber. It means to know as in to know a fact. But then there's also the word conocer, which means to know as to be acquainted with. And so God is saying, my people are perishing because they are not acquainted with me. They don't know my heart. They don't know me. They saber me. They know facts about me. They've heard about my word. They've heard about my son Jesus. They saber, they know these facts, but they do not conocer me. They've not been acquainted with me. They've not walked with me. You know, when you know somebody, you can be at a dinner and somebody puts something in their mouth and you're trying to be polite to the host. And they're like, oh, my husband don't like that. And the person who's sitting there, the host, they don't even know because they don't know you. So sometimes it's just a wrinkling of the forehead. It's just a slight something, the raising of that eyebrow. And it's like, oh, he doesn't like this. Or if somebody is someplace and if somebody says something to somebody's wife, she may be graceful, that she doesn't even let anybody else know that she's been offended by this. But a man, like, mama mad now. How many of you know when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy?